I turned 70 today, but instead of candles, music, or even a simple, "Happy birthday, Dad," I ended up standing outside my own house, shivering while cold air sliced through my sweater. My son Michael didn't even look at me. He just opened the front door, stepped out, set my slippers on the porch, and said, "I'll be right back, Dad. Stay here." Then he shut the door and locked it from the inside. "Michael?" I knocked lightly. "What are you doing? Open the door." No answer. I tried again, louder this time. "Michael, are you okay?" Nothing. His footsteps moved away, not fast, not panicked, just calm, steady steps fading deeper inside the house. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Michael had never spoken to me that coldly in his entire life. Not even during our worst arguments. Not even after his mother died. I wrapped my arms around myself as the cold bit into my fingers. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet, like the world had stepped away from me. I told myself, maybe this is some kind of surprise. Maybe he's setting something up for my birthday. Maybe tap, tap, tap. A cane. I looked up. A man was walking toward me from the sidewalk. Slow, steady steps, tapping a long white cane on the ground. He wore dark glasses, even though it was night. His head tilted slightly, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. A blind man, in the dark, walking straight toward me. "Sir," I said gently, "do you need help?" He didn't stop, didn't hesitate, didn't guess at my location. He walked directly up to me, stopping just inches from where I sat on the porch. "Raymond," he said quietly, "you're colder than you should be." My stomach tightened. "How do you know my name?" He lifted his face toward mine, and even behind those dark glasses. I swear he was looking directly into my eyes. "I was sent," he said softly, "to warn you." My breath caught. "Warn me about what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached slowly into his coat pocket. For a moment, I thought he was reaching for a weapon, but he pulled out an old pair of leather gloves. My gloves, ones I lost years ago. My voice trembled. Where did you get those?" He placed them gently in my hands. "Your son asked me to return them." My chest tightened. "Michael? Why would he?" "He didn't abandon you tonight," the blind man whispered, leaning closer. "He hid you?" My entire body went cold. Hid me from what? The blind man turned his head slowly toward the house. Not randomly, precisely, as if he could see it. "There is something inside," he whispered. "Something awake, something dangerous." My hands shook. "In my home?" "Yes," he said. "And your son didn't have time to explain. He had seconds, not minutes." I swallowed hard. "What is it? What's in there?" He slowly lowered himself onto the step beside me. "Raymond, inside that house is the reason your son has been acting strange for months." My pulse hammered. "What do you mean?" "You think he forgot your birthday." He tilted his head. "You think he's avoiding you?" I nodded. "None of that is true," he said. "Your son has been trying to keep you alive." A sharp breath escaped me. What could possibly be in my house that would— Shh. He raised a finger, his blind eyes fixed on the door. I listened. Nothing. Just silence. Then he whispered, "They're listening." A chill ripped through me. "Who?" I whispered. He shook his head slowly. "Not who. What?" My voice cracked. "Tell me." The blind man clenched the handle of his cane. "You're not ready." "I deserve to know." He turned his head toward me again, blind eyes suddenly wide, almost haunted. "Inside that home," he whispered, "is something older than you think. Something your family unknowingly brought into its walls years ago. Tonight, it woke up." My blood froze. "I don't believe this," I said. "Michael would have told me if something was wrong." He tried, the man whispered. But once it was aware, he knew. He couldn't risk talking anymore. Talking about what? I demanded. His hand tightened around my wrist with surprising strength. Raymond, if you go inside that house tonight. He leaned so close his breath warmed my ear. You will not see your next birthday. I felt like my heart stopped. What do I do? Should I leave? Call someone? Call Michael? The man shook his head. It's too late to call anyone, but not too late to run. He stood, tapping his cane on the step. Your son bought you time. Minutes, no more. Terror crawled up my spine. But why leave me outside? Why not warn me himself? Because he wasn't alone, the blind man said. He wasn't allowed to speak freely. My mouth went dry. And you? How do you know all this? The blind man turned toward the dark street. I've been watching your house for a long time, waiting, listening. Tonight was the night it finally woke. He took a step backward. You'll understand soon. But for now, do exactly as I say. I swallowed hard. What do you want me to do? He tapped his cane twice, sharply. When the lights in your house flicker? My lights? I whispered. Why? You'll know, he said. That's when you run. I stared at him, terrified, confused, desperate. Please, I said, tell me who you really are. He paused. I'm the one who saw it first. Then he vanished into the shadows, moving far too smoothly, far too precisely for a blind man. He didn't stumble, didn't hesitate, didn't tap his cane once as he walked away. He didn't even feel blind anymore. I was alone again, alone on my porch. Staring at my locked front door, the house I had lived in for years, the house holding the son I raised, the house that suddenly felt like a predator waiting for me. And just as the blind man warned, a moment later, the lights inside the house flickered. The lights inside my house flickered again, once, twice. Then a long dimming like the electricity was being swallowed by something alive. I froze. This wasn't normal. It wasn't a loose bulb or a power surge. It felt intentional, like something was signaling. The blind man's whisper echoed in my head. When the lights flicker, you run. I gripped the rail of the porch and forced myself to stand, even though my legs were stiff from the cold. My eyes stayed locked on the living room window. Behind the glass, the shadows were shifting, slowly, deliberately. It looked like someone was walking inside. But the walk wasn't right. Too smooth, too slow, too controlled. Not Michael, not anyone I'd ever seen. I whispered, "What are you doing in there?" The silhouette moved again, toward the hallway, pausing at the exact place I knew an old family portrait hung on the wall. Was it looking at it? Or listening to something? My breath fogged the air. I stepped backward down the porch steps, my heart beating against my ribs like it wanted to escape. In the stillness of the night, I made a terrible mistake. I whispered my son's name. Michael. The shadow in the window stopped, completely, like it heard me, like it was waiting. I clapped a hand over my mouth and stumbled backwards toward the sidewalk. I had to leave. I had to get help. I had to. But then the front door clicked. Not loudly, not aggressively, just a soft, careful click. The lock turning, the handle shifting. Slow, so slow it made my skin crawl. "Michael?" I whispered, even though everything inside me begged me not to. The door creaked open an inch. Darkness inside. Nothing else. I backed away farther. There was no movement, no breathing, no voice. Just the front door cracked open, inviting me back into a place the blind man told me would kill me. My ribs tightened. "Michael," I said louder, "if you're in there, answer me." Nothing. Only the silence of a house that didn't feel like mine anymore. Then something happened that turned my blood to ice. The door opened wider, and a hand slowly wrapped around the edge of the door. At first I thought maybe it was Michael's hand, but it wasn't. The fingers were too long, too thin, too pale, almost gray, and they trembled like they were testing the air, sensing where I stood. "No," I whispered to myself. "No, that's not human." The hand retreated into the darkness. Then the door closed. Soft, quiet. As if the thing inside didn't want to chase me. Not yet. I turned and ran, not because I wanted to, but because I could feel something pressing against the windows, like a face watching me leave. The blind man was right. Michael hid me. He didn't abandon me. He hid me from that. I didn't stop running until I reached the end of the street. My breath came in painful bursts. I grabbed a streetlight pole, trying to keep myself upright. I looked back. My house was dark now, still, silent. But it didn't feel empty. It felt aware, like it knew I was watching. I reached into my pocket for my phone, cold fingers shaking, and dialed Michael. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3, then voicemail. "Michael, please call me back. Something's wrong. Something's in the house." I hung up and called again. Still nothing. I paced under the streetlight, panic clawing at my throat. Where was he? Why wasn't he answering? Why did he lock me out? I needed answers. And the blind man said there was someone Michael was trying to protect me from, or something. I tried remembering everything that happened the past few weeks. Michael was distant, quiet. He jumped at small noises. He checked windows twice every night. He started sleeping on the couch with the hallway lights on. And last week, I remembered waking up at 3 a.m. to find him standing in the hallway, staring at the attic door. When I asked what he was doing, he said, "Just listening." Listening for what? I never asked. I should have. I swallowed hard as cold wind cut across my neck. But then I saw something that made my stomach twist. Someone was standing on the roof of my house, a tall, thin silhouette, perfectly still, watching, waiting. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." How long had it been up there? Had it been there while I was inside earlier today? I took a step backward. The figure didn't move. I blinked. Gone. Just like that. A trick of the light? No, that wasn't my imagination. I felt watched. Every hair on my arm stood. The blind man said he would return. He didn't. Where was he? Who was he? And why did it seem like he knew my son better than I did? The cold was starting to seep into my bones. My legs trembled from running in fear. I had to get warm and get somewhere safe. There was only one place nearby, Drinkwell Street, corner house. My neighbor Claire lived there. I forced myself to walk, glancing back every few seconds. The street looked empty. Too empty. I reached Claire's porch and knocked shakily. "Claire," I called quietly. "It's Raymond. I need help." No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I reached for the doorknob, and it turned. Unlocked. "Claire?" I whispered, pushing it open slowly. The house was dark, quiet, wrong. I took one step inside and bumped something soft on the floor. I looked down. A coat, Claire's coat, thrown there like she'd dropped it in a hurry. A faint sound drifted from deeper inside the house. A creak, a whisper, a soft shuffle. I backed up immediately. Something was in there. Not Claire, not anyone I wanted to meet. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, slow, dragging, approaching the hallway. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but before I could move, a voice whispered from behind me, so close it brushed my ear. "Raymond, that is not the house you're supposed to enter." I spun around. The blind man was standing inches away, his dark glasses reflecting the streetlight. His cane tapped once, hard. "Come," he whispered urgently. "We must go now." "Where? What's happening? What is in my house?" My voice cracked. He didn't answer the last question. Instead, he said, "Your son is trying to reach you, but he won't get far. They've begun moving." "Who?" I whispered desperately. "Who is moving?" He turned his face toward my house. "The ones who were sleeping." I grabbed his arm. "Tell me what's in there." For the first time, fear showed on his face. "They're not human." A cold shock ran through me. "What did Michael do?" I demanded. The blind man swallowed hard. "Not what he did," he whispered, "what he woke up." Before I could breathe, he gripped my hand tightly. "We have to find your son before they do." We stepped off the porch, and for the first time tonight, the lights in Claire's house flickered. The lights inside Claire's house flickered again, longer this time, like something was drawing power, draining it, tasting it. The blind man squeezed my arm so hard his fingers trembled. "Don't look back," he whispered. "Just keep walking." But of course, I looked. Through Claire's front window, a shape moved behind the curtains. Not fast, not clumsy, slow, smooth, almost floating. The blind man turned my face away sharply. "Raymond," he whispered harshly, "some things grow stronger when you look at them." A chill crawled up my spine. We hurried down the street, away from my house, away from Claire's, away from everything familiar. The neighborhood looked wrong now, too silent, too still, like the air itself was listening. "Where are we going?" I asked. "To the only place your son might still be," the blind man said. "And where's that?" He didn't answer. Instead, he tapped his cane twice, another signal I didn't understand, and took a sharp turn down an alley between two houses. The alley was narrow, shadowed, lit by a single flickering bulb. It buzzed overhead like it was struggling to stay alive. Every instinct in me screamed to turn back, but he pushed forward. "You said they're not human," I whispered. "Then tell me what they are." The blind man slowed, but didn't stop. "They're remnants," he said quietly. "Pieces of something very old, very patient." "Remnants of what?" He tilted his head like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. "You're not ready." "You've said that twice already," I snapped. "My son is missing, my house is haunted, and I'm being hunted by whatever those things are. I deserve to know." He stopped, turned toward me, and reached up with trembling hands to remove his dark glasses. What I saw behind them stole the breath from my chest. His eyes were pale gray, not cloudy like a blind man's, not empty, but glowing faintly, like two dying embers. Not human eyes, not normal. A deep, unnatural shimmer lived behind them, something old and tired and dangerous. "I'm trying to protect you from the truth," he whispered, "because once you know, there is no returning to the life you had before midnight." I took a shaky step back. "What are you?" He blinked, slowly, painfully. "Someone who saw the first one, decades ago." "The first one of what?" I whispered. "The thing that woke up in your house tonight," he said. "The thing your son disturbed when he opened a door that should have stayed closed forever." My voice trembled. "What door?" "The attic," he said. 28 years ago, something was sealed there." My stomach twisted. The attic, where Michael had been staring that night at 3 a.m., where he said he was just listening. "What's in the attic?" I demanded. The blind man put his glasses back on. "Something your wife found before she died." My knees nearly buckled. "My wife?" I whispered. He nodded. "She knew, Raymond, and she tried to hide it from you, from your son, from everyone." The cold hit me harder than the winter wind. "No," I said slowly. "No, she would have told me. She told me everything." "Not this," the blind man said softly. "Why not?" "Because even speaking about it can awaken it." My hands shook. "What did she find?" He didn't answer. Instead, he lifted his cane and smashed it against a metal dumpster. Bang! The sound echoed like thunder through the narrow alley. I jumped back. "What are you doing?" "Distracting them," he whispered. Footsteps echoed somewhere behind us. Soft, fast, too fast. "They followed us," the blind man said. "We need to move." We ran. Well, I ran. He moved fast, impossibly fast for someone who claimed to be blind. His cane tapped rhythmically, guiding him around obstacles I didn't even see until the last second. We exited the alley, crossed a parking lot, and reached a rundown playground behind an old elementary school. Swings creaked on their chains. The slide glinted under the moonlight, and on the far side of the yard, a small storage shed. The blind man pointed. "There." "Michael is in the shed?" I asked. "No, but what he left for you is." My heart pounded as we approached. "Earlier," I said between breaths, "you said something was sealed." "My wife. What did she do?" The blind man stopped at the shed door. His voice dropped so low I barely heard it. "She trapped it." I swallowed hard. "Trapped what?" "The remnant," he whispered. "Something that lived inside another person long before you ever bought that house." My eyes widened. "So it was a person?" "It was wearing a person," he corrected. "Your wife discovered it. She sealed it in the attic. It slept for decades, until Michael found something he shouldn't have." "What did he find?" The blind man tapped the shed door. "Open it." I hesitated. "What if something's inside?" "It is inside," he said, "and you need to see it." My fingers shook as I unlatched the old rusted lock. The door creaked open. Inside was nothing but darkness. Then my eyes adjusted. There was a wooden box, old, dusty, cracked. I knelt and touched it. It was cold, unnaturally cold. Inside the box was a folded piece of paper. I opened it. My wife's handwriting. My heart dropped into my stomach. "Raymond, if you are reading this, it means the seal is broken. Protect Michael. Do not go back home. It wakes when it wants to feed. It listens. It learns. Do not speak its name aloud. Do not let it see your fear." My hands trembled violently. I whispered, "What name?" The blind man grabbed my wrist sharply. "Stop!" "Let me read the rest." "No," he hissed. "Not aloud. It will hear you, even from here." I swallowed the words crawling up my throat. "What does it want?" He exhaled shakily. "It doesn't want you." "Then who?" He turned his face toward the distant neighborhood. "Michael," he whispered. "It wants Michael." The wind blew through the playground, rattling the swings. A faint sound drifted from the direction of my house. A scream. My son's scream. "Michael!" I shouted. The blind man grabbed my arm. "No, if you run back now, it will take you both. My son is in danger." "Your son woke it," he snapped, "and if I lose you both, it will never be contained again." "I don't care," I shouted, tears burning my eyes. "He's my son." The blind man stepped in front of me, blocking the path. "You want to save him?" he whispered. "Then you need to understand what he awakened." I clenched my fists. "Then tell me." The blind man finally spoke the words he'd avoided all night. "Your wife didn't seal a person in that attic, Raymond." My entire body froze. "She sealed something wearing your son's twin." For a moment I thought I misheard him. "My son's twin," I whispered, barely able to breathe. "Michael doesn't have a twin. He never had a twin." The blind man lowered his head. "He did," he said quietly. "Your wife hid the truth from you because she had no choice." My throat tightened. No, that's not possible. We had one child. The doctor lied," he interrupted flatly. "Lied to protect you. lied to protect the hospital, lied because they realized what was born alongside Michael wasn't fully human. My legs buckled, and I grabbed the shed door for support. "You're talking nonsense," I snapped. "My wife would have told me something like that." The blind man exhaled, slow and painful. "She almost did," he said. "The year before she died." I froze. "What?" "She came to my monastery," he continued. "Desperate, crying, terrified. She told us she had given birth to twins, but one of them didn't breathe." Not at first. The wind cut through the trees with a low howl. "But minutes after they pronounced it dead," the blind man whispered, "the baby sat up." My heart slammed against my ribs. "No," I said. "No, stop." "It didn't cry," he continued, voice cracking. "It didn't blink. It didn't look at your wife. It watched the nurse. It watched the doctor. It watched everything." I shook my head violently. "No child, no baby could do that." "That's exactly why the doctor lied," he said. "Your wife begged them to tell you that only one child survived." My chest heaved. "And they took the other baby?" I whispered. "No," he said, his voice lowering. "Your wife took the other baby home." I felt the world tilt. "She thought she could love it," the blind man said. "Raise it, help it grow into something human." I sank to my knees. "But she was wrong," he said. "By the time Michael was 3, the other child stopped pretending." "What do you mean, pretending?" He crouched beside me, gripping my shoulder. "It mimicked Michael at first, his movements, his voice, his laughter. But then it started mimicking things it shouldn't have known, people it had never met, voices it had never heard." I covered my face with my hands. "My wife never told me," I whispered. "Why?" "Because she knew you'd try to help it," he said. "You had a good heart, but good hearts get devoured by these things." I felt tears burning behind my eyelids. "What happened to it?" The blind man swallowed. "When the child turned 4, he said, its shadow stopped matching its body." My breath hitched. "What?" "It was subtle at first. The shadow moved a second slower, then a second faster. Then, completely independently." I felt sick. "It started watching Michael while he slept," the blind man said, "standing over his bed, breathing in sync with him, but not always the same way." "Stop," I whispered. "Please." He shook his head. "It got worse. Your wife heard it speaking in 2 voices at once. One of them was Michael's. The other wasn't human." My entire body trembled. "One night," the blind man continued, "she found the child standing in the attic, facing the wall, its body facing the wall." He took a shaky breath. "But its head turned completely backward, watching the door." I gagged, fighting vomit. "Your wife knew the mimicry was over. It wasn't pretending to be Michael anymore. It was practicing something else." "What?" I whispered. "Replacing," he said simply. It wanted to replace him. The cold wind suddenly felt like something breathing on my neck. "So she sealed it," I said. "In the attic." "Yes," the blind man said. "With my help, with several others. We trapped it in a binding circle that drains it of strength but doesn't kill it." "Why not kill it?" "Because killing a remnant releases what's inside," he said, "and what's inside is older than anything our order can fight." I stared at him. "For 28 years, he continued, "it slept, until your son made the mistake of opening the attic last week." My eyes widened. "The night I saw him standing there," I whispered. "The night he said he was just listening." The blind man nodded. "It whispered to him," he said, in his own voice. I felt a cold tear slide down my cheek. "You mean Michael unknowingly woke his own twin?" No, the blind man said darkly. Michael woke the thing wearing his twin's dead body. The playground suddenly felt suffocating. So my wife kept this secret all her life, I said, voice breaking. Why didn't she tell me before she died? Because the remnant only wakes when it senses fear, the blind man replied. And you would have feared it every day. I wiped my eyes with a shaking hand. Where is Michael now? I whispered. The blind man turned his head slightly, listening. Then he said 4 words I never wanted to hear. They have taken him. My stomach dropped. They? The remnant, he whispered. And whatever it has become after 28 years of dreaming inside your home. I stood up, heart pounding. Where did they take him? The blind man raised his cane and pointed toward the dark silhouette of my house. He is inside, he whispered. My breath froze. In the attic? I asked. No, he said. The attic is where it slept, not where it feeds. My blood turned to ice. Then where? The blind man faced me slowly. Your basement. My knees nearly gave out. The basement? I whispered. Why there? Because it wants to become him, he whispered. And that requires darkness, isolation, a place with no windows, no witnesses. No, I whispered. I'm going in there. The blind man grabbed my arm instantly. If you enter that house without understanding what you're facing, you will not walk out. I don't care, I yelled, voice cracking. Michael is my son. And that thing was your son's twin, he snapped. It knows him better than you ever could. It knows his memories, his voice, his breath, his fear. You will not recognize which is which. I stepped closer to him. I'll take that risk. For the first time, the blind man's face softened. Raymond, he said quietly, you don't understand. Michael is trapped in a place where sound bends, where darkness listens, where the walls breathe. I stared at him in horror. What does that mean? He took a long, shaky breath. It means, he whispered, your basement leads somewhere it didn't lead before. The earth seemed to tilt beneath me. Somewhere? I repeated. He nodded. A place below your house that is not part of your house. A chill ran through me. And that, he said, is where Michael is waiting for you. I took one step toward my street. The blind man whispered, Then God help you both. The walk back to my street felt unreal. The quiet houses, the empty road, the dark sky above, everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. My house stood at the end of the block like a dark, waiting creature. Windows black, door shut, silent. But the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt alive. As I approached, the blind man stayed behind me, his cane tapping gently, not guiding him, but warning me. There are rules, he whispered. Listen carefully. I nodded shakily. Rule 1. Once you step inside, do not speak Michael's name. Why? Because it will answer you with his voice. My chest tightened painfully. Rule 2. Do not follow any sound that comes from the attic. Even if it sounds like Michael? Especially then. I swallowed hard. And Rule 3, he whispered. If you feel a hand on your shoulder, do not turn around. My stomach twisted. Why not? Because the remnant will try to touch you. If you look at it directly, it will wear your face next. I nearly collapsed. The blind man took my wrist gently. You ready? No, I whispered, but I have to go. He nodded. You'll have very little time. The remnant feeds slowly when copying someone. But once it completes the mimicry, your son will be gone. Gone? Forever. A cold tremor ran through my whole body. I'll hold the door, he whispered. Whatever you hear behind you, don't turn back. I stepped onto the porch, the exact place where Michael left me earlier tonight. The door creaked open with a soft groan, and I realized the remnant had unlocked it for me, inviting me inside. I stepped over the threshold. The blind man whispered behind me, "God be with you." Then the door closed gently. The house swallowed me whole. Inside, everything felt wrong. The air was thicker, colder, damp, like the house was breathing through its walls. I moved slowly down the hallway, my hand brushing the wallpaper I had put up 20 years ago. It felt familiar under my fingers, but warmer than the air around it, like something was inside the walls. Listening, I forced myself to keep walking. The living room was dark except for the faint glow of the old digital clock. 12:03 a.m. Every second mattered. I didn't call my son's name. I didn't speak at all. The blind man warned me. I moved toward the basement door, the one Michael always double-locked. I had never questioned it. He always said it made him feel safe. Now I knew why. The basement door was open a crack. A soft sound drifted out. Not footsteps, not breathing. A low, wet, dragging sound. My heart hammered. I opened the door fully. Cold air spilled out like fog. The stairs disappeared into darkness below, darker than any darkness I'd seen before. I stepped down. Each stair creaked softly beneath my weight. 2 steps in, I heard it. A voice. My son's voice. "Dad, help!" I gripped the railing so tightly my knuckles went white. It sounded exactly like him. Same pitch, same tone, same fear. But Michael had never sounded so close to me and so far away at the same time. I forced myself not to answer. The blind man said this would happen. "Dad, I'm scared." I shut my eyes. That voice wasn't my son. Whatever was down here was trying to pull me deeper. The basement floor finally came into view. Or what should have been the floor. Instead, the concrete was cracked open, like the earth had split. A narrow passage sloped down into a cavern that should not exist beneath a suburban home. Cold air rushed up from it, moist and heavy like something exhaled from the deep. I crouched and stepped through the broken concrete. The passageway was carved into dirt and stone, twisting into darkness. The walls pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Then a whisper behind me. "Dad!" I stopped breathing. The voice was right at my back, but the blind man said, "If you feel a hand on your shoulder, do not turn around." I didn't move. The whisper came again, slightly distorted this time. "Dad." My eyes burned with tears. I wanted it to be Michael. I wanted to turn. I didn't. I kept moving forward. The passage widened, and in the center, I found him, my son. Michael, bound by black tendrils like living ropes, vines that wrapped around his arms, his legs, his chest. He was awake, barely. His eyes fluttered open when he saw me. "Dad," he whispered, voice weak. "Run. Please run." "I'm here," I whispered, even though speaking was dangerous. Michael shook his head desperately. "No, you're not supposed to talk. It hears everything." I stepped closer. "What do I do?" Michael's eyes widened in horror. "Don't come closer." Something shifted in the tunnel behind me. I froze. Slow, careful, wet footsteps approached from the shadows. Michael's voice trembled. "Dad, don't turn around." My entire body shook. "Don't look at it," Michael whispered. "Whatever you do, don't look at it." The footsteps grew louder, slower, closer. Something cold brushed the back of my neck. I shut my eyes tight. The remnant's voice came from behind me, but it wasn't using Michael's voice. It was using mine. "Raymond," my breath caught. "Turn around," it whispered in my own voice. "Look at me." I bit down on my lip, hard enough to taste blood. Michael whispered, "It can't copy too fully if they don't look at it. Just don't turn, Dad. Don't turn." The remnant circled me slowly, dragging itself across the dirt, its breath rattling like broken glass. I stared only at my son, at his terrified eyes, at the tremble in his jaw. "Dad," Michael whispered, "listen to me. There's a lantern behind you, on the wall. Grab it. Don't turn. Just reach." I reached my hand out blindly. My fingers brushed cold metal. The remnant hissed sharply behind me, the sound echoing off the stone. "You can't protect him," it whispered, but the voice cracked, struggling to fully mimic mine. "Good." I ripped the lantern from its hook. Michael whispered, "Now throw it." I hurled it behind me with all my strength. The lantern shattered. Light exploded across the tunnel. White, bright, violent light that burned the remnant's shriek into the stone. Michael yelled, "Dad, run!" I surged forward, grabbed my son, ripping the black tendrils off him one by one. They writhed like living worms, latching onto my arms, burning cold circles into my skin. Michael screamed, "Don't let them touch your face!" I dragged him toward the passage as the remnant thrashed in the burning light, its shriek twisting between my voice and Michael's, and a third voice I didn't recognize. We reached the broken floor of the basement. I shoved Michael upward. He climbed out. I climbed after him. The remnant's screaming stopped suddenly. Too suddenly. Michael froze. "Dad!" It stopped because a hand shot out from the darkness below. Gray, thin, twisted. It grabbed my ankle. Michael grabbed me. "Dad!" I kicked with everything left in me. The hand loosened. I scrambled out. Michael slammed the basement door shut. I threw my weight against it. Michael did too. Behind the door, something laughed, slow, childlike. "Dad!" Michael sobbed. "That's not me." I pulled him into my arms. The blind man appeared in the hallway as if he'd been waiting the whole time. "You saved him," he whispered. "For tonight." "For tonight?" I repeated, breathless. The blind man nodded. "Because once a remnant wakes, it never goes back to sleep." Michael collapsed into me, and for the first time in my 70 years, I knew our lives would never be normal again.